Part 45. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 463. When they were children, Ika and Luoluo lived in a remote village that could truly be called a border suburb. The village is surrounded by steep mountains to the southwest and north, and is as isolated as the end of the world. Although the place is not big, it has everything you need. After generations of hard work, the border villages surrounded by mountains have been developed into a thriving paradise by continuously expanding fields and grazing lands. It is said that this place was originally just a small settlement, composed of several different families. When Ika and Luoluo were born, they had integrated various communities in the surrounding areas and developed to the current scale. Therefore, Ika and Luoluo did not lack playmates of the same age during their childhood. But the best friend is the child who came to this village from the outside world and took root. It is said that Shun's family was a traveling family that traveled around the world for a long time. When they passed through this village on the way, they stayed here for various reasons, and finally became one of the families that make up the village. If you put it this way, Shun is actually no longer a foreigner. And this gray seaweed-headed boy who came here from the outside world brought many new things to Ika and the others who had never left the village since birth. Naturally, they were still ignorant. As a child, Ika looked up to him and was even called Big Brother by him. He became close friends with the brother and sister Ika and Luoluo about half a year after Shun's family took root in the village. From that time on, the three of them were always inseparable. Shun is a boy with strong mobility, and he often takes the village chief's precious children to wander around mountains and rivers. As a younger sister who thinks she must take care of her brother, Luoluo also has to follow the two boys around. Brother Shun, you guys walk slower. There was nothing interesting about the border villages. Apart from the continuous mountains, the golden wheat fields and the grazing lands full of excrement, the two boys had no interest in those places at all. It is said that there is the sea far away from the border villages. The prerequisite is that you have to climb several mountains and climb to the top of the highest mountain to see it from a distance. Every day I look for a place where I can see the sea, but I have to climb up those mountains and then know that they are not suitable and then have to climb down again, which is very troublesome. Why don't we just prepare some things for a long trip and just go climb the mountain we saw? This is Shun and Ika's daily goal. Climb the highest mountain and see the most beautiful sea. The mountain trails they climbed were all unexplored animal trails. Luoluo, who was not used to walking on mountain trails, naturally couldn't keep up with the two boys' excited steps. Lolo, you're falling behind again. Ika, who was walking in front, stopped and turned around, shouting loudly to Luoluo, who was lagging far behind. Shun also stopped after them. It's not because you two are always moving forward. Half a minute passed waiting for Luoluo to return to them. The necessities needed for mountain climbing, including flares used in times of distress and baskets containing water and food, were all carried on Shun and Ika's backs. Lolo was not carrying any heavy objects that would consume extra energy. In order to cooperate with the two boys on the mountain climbing trail, Luoluo took off the refreshing dress she usually wears and put on a long-sleeved top and trousers suitable for mountain climbing. The delicate stroppy sandals were replaced by thick-soled medium-sized shoes that were rarely worn. Boots, and the big bow-tie straw hat used to protect from the sun in summer is still worn on the head. However, such sufficient equipment still seems unable to make up for Luoluo's weaknesses. Brother, where are we now? Ika, please remember the path we took. If you go to a forest alone, you will definitely get lost and die. It doesn't matter, there's still Luoluo. I don't want to accompany my brother to that boring ending. You bastard are talking about heartless things. If Luoluo suffers with you, let me know that you are the one who will make it easier. Brother, why do you sound like my bastard father? You two, don't talk about that kind of thing anymore. Lolo panted, interrupting the argument between Ika and Shun. Although the two of them are indeed close friends, They always have different opinions on topics involving Lugo. If they don't intervene in time to stop them, sometimes they will even fight. The three of them were now walking on a mountain path with sparse trees, and the gray and uneven rocky road sloped up toward the top of the mountain. Shun looked up at the cloudless sky. The sunshine today was not as dazzling as the previous few days. Having said that, with this unpredictable weather, it would not be surprising if a severe thunderstorm unique to midsummer could occur at any time. Therefore, Lugo also carefully prepared rainproof tools for everyone. The things in the luggage carried by Ika and Shun were all prepared by Lugo himself. Because they were meticulous, they had everything they needed, so much that she couldn't even carry them. Seeing the tired look on Lugo's face, Ika's enthusiasm was diluted by distress. "Brother, let's rest here for a while. Anyway, it's still early and the weather is just right." They specially summarized their past experiences yesterday, and today they took only a short time to reach the top of the mountain far away from home. The further away from the village, the greater the potential for danger. After all, this is an uncultivated wilderness area. If you encounter wild animals, you are lucky. The portable weapons such as daggers, bows, crossbows, and torches in your luggage can drive them away, but if you encounter a monster, you will be in trouble. But I think there may be a heavy rain at any time. If you want to rest peacefully, it's better to find a place to hide from the rain. In short, try to go to higher places. Shun mentioned the experience and iron rules of mountaineering, otherwise, turn back now, it's dangerous to rest here. Want to turn back? Ika asked Lolo for his opinion with some regret, and it was obvious that he didn't like either option. Lugo shook his head gently. Let's continue walking forward. It's hard for everyone to get here. Brother and Shun are both looking forward to the place where they can see the sea, aren't they? Lolo actually also wants to see what the legendary sea looks like, right? Ahaha. Living in a village surrounded by mountains, Ika and Lugo had only heard descriptions of the sea, and that kind of place seemed to never reach them. So when Shun, who came here from the outside world, heard that the sea was actually right in front of them, they had been looking forward to seeing the boundless sea level and the vast beauty of the water and sky with their own eyes. Ika worried about herself for a few seconds, then took off the luggage on her back and handed it to Shun. Brother, you should still be able to carry it, right? After Shun took over his luggage without knowing why, he squatted down in front of Lugo. We're not far from the top of the mountain. I'll carry you up. Lugo hesitated for a moment, then carefully climbed onto Ika's back. Lugo originally didn't mind this kind of intimacy between family members, but since when he realized the deep feelings, he has been hesitant like this. But this subtle interchange was not noticed by Ika. Hey! This is not the first time he has carried Lugo on his back. Feeling her relaxing and leaning on his back, Ika will also relax unconsciously. Although the mountain road was still rugged, Ika walked at a gentle pace with steady and strong steps, because at this moment he shouldered the warmth and happiness between the two of them. Finally, we found a high ground that we were instantly satisfied with, and a mountain stream that became quite narrow flowed into a naturally formed rock cave. This is an excellent resting place. The stream flowing here is a tributary of the river, and it is surrounded by dense jungle. This location can be relatively safe from mudslides even in heavy rains. Brother, you are so good. You actually found this place. You bastard, didn't you ever believe me in the first place? At that time, I just wanted to comfort Lugo. I was also prepared to just find a place to stay if I couldn't find a suitable place to rest. Lolo was comforted, but my heart was seriously hurt again. Don't worry about me so much, this isn't the first time you and I have been to a place like this. Ika has long regarded Lugo as a companion who is no different from herself. Although he does accommodate her in some aspects, most of the time he does not treat her differently just because she is a girl. This is also the relationship that Lugo hopes for. But for Shun, who is not a family member. Lugo is someone who should be cared for in every possible way, so when Aika is not gentle enough to Lugo, he will punish Aika with a hammer. Now that we've found a safe place, there's no need to worry. Let's finish lunch during the break. But didn't we just have breakfast before we set off? There are at least 2 hours left before lunchtime, and Lugo, who doesn't eat much, doesn't have an appetite yet. There won't be any time left for us to have a leisurely lunch later. My uncle and aunt have repeatedly reminded us that we have to go back before dark, so we have to include the return time. Brother, we have marked the way along the way here. We don't have to take so many detours on the way back. The speed should be much faster than when we just came here, right? Even then, we have to start walking back around 3 or 4 o'clock. If we don't find a place where we can see the sea today, there's nothing we can do, brother. We can only come back next time when we are better prepared. Aika, let's think about it from another perspective. Haven't we already explored all the mountain roads here this time? There is no need to hesitate next time we come here, we can go straight to the destination. Although it's a good thing to have such optimistic thoughts, since eldest brother and Lugo have said so, I have no objection. Shun is the leader and Lugo is the sister. Aika must listen carefully to what they both say. Since the rest of the trip was no longer controversial, Lolo sat down and took off the big straw hat with a bow on his head and placed it next to him. It might be really about to rain heavily. It's been very hot and muggy today. Lolo unbuttons the neckline of her long-sleeved top naturally with her movements, and the design of the mountaineering outfit that can adjust the tightness at any time is very subtle. Underneath the clothes is a pure white tulle lining. The sweat flowing from the neck to the collarbone dyes the white tulle lining almost transparent, and the outline of the close-fitting sports bra is looming. Lugo whirred and fanned the inside of her collar with her hands, exposing her delicate skin that was slightly reddened by the sultry heat to the air. The narrow cave is filled with the fragrance of moist soil and unknown wildflowers. This fragrance is very close to the atmosphere of Lugo. Shun quickly looked away from Lugo with some embarrassment. Although he is the reliable eldest brother of the two siblings, he is still only a child who is 4 years older than them and will celebrate his 16th birthday in 2 months. Being ignorant and yearning for certain things, he didn't know where to look at this moment, but Lugo didn't seem to notice the trouble she caused Shun. Only Aika noticed Shun's embarrassed look and secretly covered his mouth and laughed. He would not panic just because he saw Lugo's skin. For Aika at that time, Lugo was just a sister, a simple and beautiful relationship. Then, Aika took out the folded towel in her luggage, stood up and walked softly to Lugo, let go of her hand, and the loose towel fell like some kind of indescribable caterpillar on her head. The towel hanging down from the corner just blocked Lugo's sight. Mistaking it for a caterpillar, she hurriedly got the thing off her head. What? It turned out to be just a towel. Brother, don't be scared. Me, it's true. You screamed out before you could see clearly, right? Wipe off your sweat. You'll catch a cold easily if you're dressed like this. That's something that fell from the head. What if it's something strange? Lugo grumbled unwillingly and hung the towel around his neck, holding tightly the corners of the towel hanging on his chest with both hands. Thank you, brother. Hey, Aika, you actually took the opportunity to increase Lugo's favorability. Brother, why are you saying weird things again? Lugo is the girl I want to marry into my family in the future. Yes, but first brother, what you have to do is to ask her brother for permission, but I won't agree. It's gratifying that the dream has been shattered. It has nothing to do with you, as long as your uncle and aunt agree to the marriage, it's enough. Brother, how can you be so confident when you haven't even taken the first step? This kind of dispute without any practical significance has appeared for the second time today, and Lugo has long been used to it. She calmly stayed out of the situation, wiped the sweat off her neck and chest with the towel Aika gave her, and then walked between them and pulled the two people apart. Don't always fight over such meaningless things, really. Before Luoluo finished speaking, there was a roar that sounded like a beast from the distance. Although the distance of the sound seemed to be some distance away, the shock that penetrated the air shook the top of the cave where they were resting several times. Gravel. What is that sound? Ika and Shun, who were originally blushing due to the argument, stopped at the same time and looked in the direction outside the cave. That kind of cry can't be that of a wild animal. We may have had the worst luck we've had in years. Ika and Shun flew to the entrance of the cave and looked around. Birds and beasts scattered in the dense forest in the distance, as if there was some unspeakable ferocious beast hidden in that place. The sky turned from sunny to overcast at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye, and dark cumulonimbus clouds rolled over and covered the sky above them. Luoluo, pack your things and get ready to leave. Ika immediately turned back to the cave and said to Luoluo, while starting to pack the unpacked luggage. Is there something outside? I don't know. Anyway, it's not something we want to encounter. Anyway, let's get out of here as soon as possible. It's going to rain heavily outside soon. We need to go down the mountain now. Shanya hurriedly started stuffing things into his luggage and carried them on his back. How could there be any third party in a place like this? The fourth level of monsters. Shun muttered to himself in disbelief. It's not that they didn't do enough research before setting off. This mountain forest area has never been artificially developed, so it's not surprising that there are any weird and rare birds and animals hidden there. The same beast roar as before was heard again in the distance. It seems to be getting closer this time. They probably didn't come for us. Anyway, don't think too much. Follow the markers on our road and go down the mountain as soon as possible. After leaving the mountainous forest area, go to a place with a wide view. As long as you return to the village, you will be safe. Monsters are easily attracted to things filled with magical power. Neither Shun nor Ika are good at magic, and Luoluo only knows a little bit about it. None of the three of them has the kind of special physique that attracts the attention of monsters. Luoluo hurriedly tied the collar of her long-sleeved coat, picked up the big straw hat with a bow and hung it behind her, and started to help the two boys, who were getting more and more messy, to check their luggage. After Shun carried the luggage for both of them, Luoluo obediently leaned close to Ika's back and hugged his shoulders tightly with her arms. When we walked out of the cave, the sky was already as dark as dusk, and it didn't look like it was actually close to noon. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 464. The three people quickly ran down the mountain along the markings. In addition to the roar of the approaching beasts and the shaking of the earth, another pale lightning flashed across the sky, which was particularly dazzling in the dark clouds, making the dark sky suddenly bright and clear. After a second, a low thunder sounded from far to near. Marked by deafening thunder, torrential rain poured down from the sky. Put this on. Lolo, hold on to me. Ika tied one end of the rope to his own waist and the other end to Luoluo's waist, tying the two of them tightly together. Then Luoluo took the raincoat from Shunsai and put it on his and Ika's heads, while Shun used the raincoat to cover himself and his luggage. The heavy rain made it very difficult to walk on the rugged mountain road. Their feet were full of mud, and the wet rocks almost made them fall down many times. However, Shun and Ika insisted on holding on to their feet and passed the road they came from in the shortest possible time. There was no communication between the three people, they just ran with all their strength. When turning around a suspended mountain cliff, Ika clearly felt something was wrong with the rocky ground beneath her feet. The next moment, the ground beneath Ika and Luoluo fell apart. Varied. Without warning, Ika's feet lost their grip, and he and Lolo were pulled by gravity and fell deep into the cliff together. Shun was stunned for a few seconds before he realized what was happening in front of him. Ika. Lolo. He stumbled, stopped, and ran back to the edge of the cliff, lying on the ground and looking down the cliff. However, there were only clouds and mist in the depths of the cliff, and Ika and Luoluo lost their traces in an instant. Below the cliff is a rolling torrent. Ika stretched out his hand to grab the rock arm protruding from the cliff wall. He missed it several times and his arm was scratched with countless blood marks by the gravel. However, at the last moment when he was about to fall into the water, he grabbed the rock arm that protruded out and became their last resort when they fell into the water. Buffer. If you fall from such a high cliff and fall directly into the water, the impact will be equivalent to falling on the concrete floor. You will either die or be disabled. With the sound of falling water, a huge splash was raised, and the splash was shattered by the subsequent waves in the next moment. The rushing river never stopped. Ika and Luoluo fell into the rushing river. The harsh sound of the wind whistling past their ears was instantly submerged by the deep water, and the surroundings became extremely quiet. Ika felt that the weight on his back became obviously heavier. Luoluo let go of his shoulders, slid down his back, and sank to the bottom of the water. Fortunately, the rope connecting the two bodies did not break when they fell. Ika was floating in the deep water, grabbing the rope and pulling Luoluo's body back to her. The constant choking of river water in his mouth and the sharp pain that stung his pupils made the impact from his eardrums even heavier, and the pressing feeling in his heart slowly penetrated into his brain. Ika suppressed all the pain with perseverance, hugged Luoluo's body tightly with one hand, and surfaced with hands and feet on the ground. Lolo. Luoluo in his arms did not respond to Ika's call. He must have fainted when he fell from high altitude. The surging water swept away their bodies like fallen leaves, and the rolling river water covered their heads again and again, submerging them both. I don't know if it was the Holy Lady who dropped the dawn of hope to human believers. A cluster of vines as thick as an arm hung down into the turbulent water. Without thinking, Ika stretched out her hands to grasp this only hope. Please, don't break it. I don't know where the power came from in his body. Ika grabbed the vines and struggled to twist his body in the rapids. With the help of the dual power of the vines and his body, he was finally washed to the river beach by the current at the critical moment. If you continue to follow the trend, you will probably die. Ika was still frightened, but at this time they were indeed saved. Both men survived. Ahem. While fighting the rapids, a lot of river water was poured into my lungs and stomach. As soon as she relaxed, Ika's stomach couldn't help but began to churn, and she lay down on the river beach and vomited. After vomiting, his body finally felt a little better, and Ika drove his limp legs to move to Luoluo's side. She was still breathing, but lost consciousness. Very good. Before Ika had time to thank her fate, the roar of a nearby beast pierced her eardrums and shook the surrounding air. It feels like that indescribable giant beast is right next to you. Ika turned around and looked in horror, only to see towering trees not far from the river beach falling down one after another, and a giant monster walking on four legs stepping out of the forest with its head raised high. It was a magical beast that was almost as tall as a towering tree several meters high. It spewed hot and moist breath from its huge nostrils and huge mouth. This is an empty river beach without any shelter, and Ika doesn't have the energy to continue hiding with the unconscious Lolo. The cloudy eyeballs protruding from the sockets stared at Ika and Luoluo, as if they were targeting prey. Then the monster opened its huge mouth, and the huge magic power visible to the naked eye gathered in that huge mouth. If it cannot be stopped, the erupting flames will burn everything around the river beach, and the flesh and blood will be completely melted. Dying. It would have been better if he hadn't escaped with Luoluo. Let Shun take her to a safe place, at least she won't have to be buried with him. Regret is the most meaningless act. Just when Ika was regretful and unable to move, flames burst out from the giant mouth of the monster. There is no place to escape here, and the outcome will not change no matter where you escape. Ika opened her arms and hugged Lolo tightly, using her back to fight against the rolling flames. If possible, he only hoped that Luoluo could survive alone. He could do nothing but pray. However, the flames did not burn their bodies. The flames that should have enveloped the two of them in the next second did not arrive as Ika expected. He gingerly raised his head and opened his eyes, and the warm cherry color filled Ika's vision. The warm sun and the gentle breeze carry a light fragrance. The cherry blossom tree is in full bloom, with pale pink petals flying in the wind. The environment Ika and Lululo were in changed drastically in the second they closed their eyes. It was a beautiful scenery that could never exist in reality, and Ika couldn't help but wonder if she had entered the world after death. Under the cherry blossom tree, standing with his back to Ika, the dim and petite figure faced the huge beast. The flying cherry blossom petals act like a barrier, isolating the rolling flames. The flames continued to burn the flying cherry blossom petals, but they were still unable to break through this layer of defense. Maintaining incredible magic, the girl with her back to Ika tilted her head slightly. Ika finally saw the hazy figure in front of her clearly. That is a girl that can be described as both cute and beautiful. The soft pink hair is tied into equally soft twin tails. Under the flat bangs are emotionless eyes, and the crimson kimono wraps her slender body. The girl held a red paper umbrella, and the petals of fallen cherry blossom slid lightly from the umbrella. She is not the acquaintance in Ika's memory. There has never been such a fresh and refined girl in Ika's memory. The girl just glanced at Ika and turned her attention back to the huge beast again. She gently raised her crimson farisode, and the surrounding scenery changed again. The silver-white geometric structure quickly constructed a giant weapon in the void that was in sharp contrast to the girl's petite body. Ika, who was slumped on the ground, could only stare at the girl's every move in stunned silence. Then, the girl gently flicked her fingers towards the giant beast. The giant armed cannon burst out with a silver-white torrent of magic power, penetrating through the flames and mercilessly devouring the body of the gigantic beast. After the powerful torrent of magic surged, a deep ravine was dug out on the riverbank ground. Silver-white flames burned the fallen towering trees, which were gradually extinguished by the heavy rain from the outside world. In this world where only cherry blossoms are flying, it is like a paradise isolated from the world, and not even a drop of rain has fallen in. The girl holding the paper umbrella turned around and walked silently on the green grass with her wooden clogs. She walked up to Ika, who was hugging Lulu. She looked at the brother and sister with moist eyes that could not see the emotion in them. "I was seen, seven-colored pansy." As if hearing her say this, Ika's memory was interrupted here. "When I woke up from the darkness, the ceiling in front of me was filled with silvery moonlight reflected from the floor. The faint light brings a touch of agility to the originally silent night, complementing the haziness of the night. It's a dream." Stretching out his hand from the quilt and repeatedly flexing and stretching his fingers under the faint moonlight, Ika confirmed the reality of waking up from a dream. It is not a dream experienced while sleeping. That feeling is difficult to describe in words. In the dream, I didn't know that it was just an illusion, but when I woke up, I felt that I was just watching myself on the stage acting out past memories. That was a real experience that happened 7 or 8 years ago. Why didn't I recall it until I dreamed about it? When Girly taught Ika how to use magic equipment, the figure of the girl standing under the cherry blossom tree was not the image he imagined in his mind, but he had met her from the beginning. Ika, who still doesn't know the truth about the world, met Hitomi, who appeared in the world for the first time a few years ago. Hitomi. Only then did Ika notice that the girl sleeping next to him had disappeared. Only the newly laid quilt was left where Hitomi originally lay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 465. Ika got up and came to the courtyard, just as he expected. So you're here. Can't you sleep? Hitomi, who was sitting on the edge of the corridor and looking at the night sky, turned his head when he heard the sound, and stared at Aika, who appeared here at an untimely moment with his slightly raised eyes. Hitomi's eyes didn't seem surprised that Aika found her. She should have noticed it when Aika woke up. A little. Soon, he looked at the night sky again as if he had lost interest in Aika. "You're not going to ask why I'm not asleep yet?" Aika sat down next to her with her knees on her knees. "Forget it, I guess you can also see the dreams I've had. The concentration of magic particles inside the world tree is very high. If I stay next to the master, it may affect the master's spiritual world." Is that dream really related to Hitomi? Although I don't know why I forgot such an important memory, it is indeed something I have experienced personally. Even if you hide here, I will wake up naturally after my dream. Since it is useless to put such a little distance away, at least you can stay by my side when I wake up, instead of looking for you everywhere after I wake up. Feel more at ease. Hitomi turned her head. She didn't know what she thought about Aika's words, but she just stared at Aika's face with eyes that showed no emotion. The gentle silvery moonlight coated her bathrobe with a layer of silver, and her long pink hair was fluffy and soft on her shoulders. "Sorry, Hitomi." She tilted her head in confusion, as if she really didn't know what Aika was apologizing for. "I don't know why I forgot. I didn't remember until now. It turns out that Luoluo and I were saved by you a long time ago, but we forgot that you were always by our side." After listening to Aika's confession quietly, Hitomi looked away from his face and looked at the moonlight flowers in the courtyard that only bloomed at night. "It's my request." After a long time, she told Aika briefly. "Request? What does this mean?" "I asked Orchid Heart to seal the memory of that time. Orchid Heart has very few abilities to manipulate spirits. During the Moonflower Festival, Luoluo also had memories sealed by her that she didn't want to recall." "Actually, you understand Orchid Heart, is that right?" In the past, when Aika asked Hitomi about Orchid Heart, Hitomi said that she didn't know much about Orchid Heart, which had no historical records. "That's because I judge that the master doesn't need to know too much about Orchid Heart." Hitomi's answer was very reserved, and it seemed that there were many things that Aika didn't know. "After having that dream, now I want to understand what happened at that time. To be honest, I still don't know what happened after I was rescued by you. I only know that Shan used a flare to find the adults. Me and Luoluo was saved after waking up on the river beach. But when he woke up, you were no longer there. We forgot the fact that we were attacked by monsters. We always thought that we just fell into the river and fainted. And then it washed ashore. Wouldn't it be better if I didn't think about it?" Hitomi's tone seemed to be a little lower. "Even if I think about it, what's the difference? I don't want to forget the first time I met you. At that time, you seemed to have mentioned a name like Pansy. Whose name was that?" The last words Aika heard Hitomi say in her dream were not addressed to herself, but to a fourth person besides them. "Pansy is a legendary flower with 7 petals, each petal showing a different color. That is a flower whose existence itself goes against the laws of nature and only appears in legends or fairy tales. Magic equipment is the fallen leaves that withered when the world tree went berserk. Anything that contains the magic power of the world tree may become a magic equipment. The foundation of the world tree can both maintain the operation of this world and destroy it. During the cross-border war, the outbreak of magic around the world disrupted the foundation of the world tree. The continent was torn apart, and the withered leaves flew to various areas of the world. The areas where the fallen leaves were obtained formed the so-called relics, and it was the magic suit of the withered leaves that bestowed the magic power of the world tree on the relics. Of course, there are also special beings like Hitomi among the magic costumes. The Orchid Heart is a 7-colored pansy that was born at the root of the world tree. It is an illusory thing that cannot exist in the real world. The Kin's family got such a magic outfit by chance. The Orchid Heart is an extremely special existence. She does not have it. It belongs to her own spiritual world, but dyes the host's spiritual world into her color in a parasitic way. Will this approach cause danger to Luoluo? There is no danger, and it will not conflict with the host's spiritual world. Then there's no problem. As long as it doesn't hurt Luoluo, nothing else matters. Ika only cares about this issue. He doesn't particularly understand the complicated situation, but if there is something that threatens Lolo, he will never tolerate it. So that sentence at that time, did you say it to Orchid Heart? Seal our memory. Ika sorted out the clues in his mind, but wait a moment, you and Orchid Heart, are you thinking that Luoluo and I only got the outer clothes from my parents before we left home? Have we already concluded a contract with you before we got the outer clothes? Has the master done any contract signing ceremony before setting off? That said, there really isn't. That's why Ika treats the silver white wrist wheel as an ordinary magic tool, and Luoluo treats the aquamarine necklace as an ordinary decoration. Probably before he could remember the time of birth, the ceremony of concluding the contract was already completed. It turns out that I have been protected by you since I came to this world, sister. Hitomi's face still turned cherry red under the silvery moonlight. Ika ignored her embarrassment and continued talking on her own. Let's go back to the topic just now. So, the orchid heart is the viola at the root of the world tree, right? If you know so much about the orchid heart, why didn't you tell me at that time? In no mood. It's just not necessary. You just said don't want, right? A master-slave relationship that lacks mutual trust is fragile. Okay, I believe you. There was no conversation between Ika and Hitomi for the time being, and they looked up at the night sky together. The night sky inside Yggdrasil is also dotted with stars. The starry sky is like a canvas, dotted with diamonds, sprinkled with diamond powder, and spread over the vast sky. Starlight brought a ray of light to the dark night sky. Although it is only a very weak ray of light, it can lead the confused and groping people to the end of darkness. Then let me ask another question, Hitomi. I hope you can tell me the truth. You didn't hide here because you were afraid that sleeping next to me would affect my rest, right? If you want to ask Ika why she thinks this way, it's because seeing her figure sitting alone on the corridor not far away gave her an indescribable feeling of loneliness. The orchid heart is a magic weapon used by the Kin's family to restrict me. The fact that Hitomi suddenly said made Ika stunned for a moment. This is something that only the Chai's family can achieve. The spiritual space of ordinary humans cannot accommodate the spiritual space of the world tree. Even the master does not have such magnanimity. Pansy can suppress the magic power of the world tree and use orchid. The characteristics of the heart can suppress the existence of the fiery eyes. That characteristic, are you referring to the magical path between me and Luoluo? Yes. That magical path connects the bodies and minds of Ika and Luoluo. Just like the literal meaning, even the fluctuating emotions of the other person can be felt as if they are experienced personally. The orchid heart will eliminate the magic power of the fiery eyes, and the Kin's family uses two-body magic equipment to reconcile the spiritual space of both parties. But if there is only one heir to the family, does it have to be a contract with you and orchid heart at the same time? But if you do this, won't there be a conflict? Unfortunately, there has never been an example of the owner's assumption in the family history of Kins. The heirs of the Kin's family have been twins since ancient times, and the twins have always inherited the eyes of fiery flame and the orchid respectively. Heart. So this is a. In fact, this fact did not shock Ika. Just like Hitomi said before, it doesn't make any difference whether you know or not. It makes sense to use that sentence in this kind of place. Tong, I remember you told me before that you don't like to be interfered with by others, right? But isn't orchid heart like this? If I lose my master because of me, I will feel guilty. Guilt. Ika didn't expect to hear this meaningful word from Hitomi's mouth. Hitomi's emotions in front of everyone have always been as plain as water, but she will always show sentimentality and delicateness inadvertently. For example, he felt competitive towards Wei 11 who was on the same side, and he was dissatisfied with Guang who was inexplicably close to him. Is the reason for such a contrast because Hitomi is not used to living in this world as a human yet? Or is it because Hitomi has been alone for too long and has become a little bad at interacting with other people? An impulse surged through Aika's heart. Hitomi, now I order you as the master not to worry about the things you are thinking about now. Since I have made a contract with you, it is also the responsibility of the contract owner to accept everything from you. Yours I will also take care of your worries. I don't worry about that kind of thing. But haven't you just run away like this now? Aika used the undeniable facts before the two of them to block the lies that Hitomi was trying to conceal. But to put it this way, if Luoluo and I were too far apart and the magic pathway couldn't be connected, would you be any different at that time than you are now? After Luoluo left, Orchid Heart's inhibition disappeared. But there was no abnormality. That's true. Luoluo has been away from us for a long time. That is to say, even if Luoluo is not with us now, you won't feel any discomfort, right? Aika recalled Luoluo's sentimentality, cheered up, and her tone returned to her previous optimism. Having said so much, there is no problem at all now. There is nothing to be afraid of. I don't know either. Hitomi pressed her chest lightly with her little hand, feeling the beating in her chest. Obviously the magic power of the world tree cannot be compatible with humans, but the master and I are gradually becoming one. Tong will definitely be like Wei 11 and gradually integrate into the world and live as an ordinary girl. That would bother me. Why? If I become an ordinary girl, I won't be able to protect my master. Ha ha ha. So I was worried about this problem. I think this worry is a bit unnecessary. It's very important. For me. You need to learn this from Wei 11, she is your senior in this aspect. Becoming an ordinary girl and becoming strong do not conflict, and you will get a lot from ordinary life. Precious feelings and the strength of the soul are also powerful. Can I also become like Shueshishiji? With an unconvincing tone, Hitomi raised her head slightly and looked up at Aika's confident smile. Most definitely. Aika is sure. He knew that the reason why Hitomi appeared in front of him was because he longed to live freely in this colorful world like Wei 11. It's just that Hitomi herself didn't notice this wish, or she noticed it but was embarrassed to admit it. No matter what, Aika will accept everything Hitomi has to offer. Because this is not only the responsibility of the master, but also the obligation of the family. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 466. The next day, everyone woke up and found that Misty and Veer were missing. There was no one in Misty's room and no luggage was left behind. The whole room seemed to have been cleaned, neat and clean. Will probably woke up late at night when everyone was sleeping, at least after Aika and Hitomi fell asleep. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Misty to tidy up the room and then leave quietly with the unconscious Will. It wouldn't be surprising if they were escaping to the outside world. Since they can enter the world tree from the outside world, they must also have the means to leave the world tree freely. It is unknown where Misty and Will have gone, and it is impossible for everyone to give up the most important thing to find them now. The silver hull of the aviation magic ship Yggdrasil appeared in the blue cloudless sky directly above the mansion. Although such ostentation might be noticed by the residents of Sentia Principality's capital and cause unnecessary trouble, Aika decided to choose the fastest and most direct method. Yggdrasil spreads its wings and soars in the sky. No one can catch up with the highest power converted by the ancient molecular power furnace. Outside the window is the Principality of Sentia, which Wei 11 protects with all her heart, and everyone really wants to take a look at it. But that will have to wait until Wei 11 wakes up and visit together. For her, this place is full of memories and nostalgia. Tens of minutes later, Yutra Hill was already far away from the bustling city. We landed in an endless wilderness. The scenery here seems to only exist in fairy tales, full of natural and comfortable farming and pastoral style. What reached everyone's ears was the chirping of birds and the chirping of insects, all over the fields. This is the center of the world tree. Hitomi used the simplest explanation to tell everyone that they had reached their final destination, and only by getting here could it be possible to wake up the sleeping Way 11. Small hills can be seen in the distance. On the hill stand huge stone monuments that reach into the clouds. They are inserted into the ground in various directions and form a huge circle. The stone monuments are connected by ropes with bells hanging on them. Even if they are far apart, they can be heard ringing in the wind. The clear ringtone echoes ethereally, like an ancient miracle holding some kind of sacrifice. Ika's brows suddenly frowned. Just because he was holding Way 11 in his arms, he raised his hands to press his chest, which was suddenly out of breath, without any conditioned reflex. At this moment, it was as if a dull knife was slowly cutting open the chest, and a pair of invisible hands sank into the chest, grasped the beating heart, and slowly tightened it. The nails dug into the muscles bit by bit, squeezing out the blood drop by drop. I didn't expect to be here. Is it Luoluo? Ling had seen Ika's heart-wrenching pain once before, and she immediately thought of this result. Well, it's definitely her. Ika squeezed out a sound from her dry throat, and her voice was hoarse and very uncomfortable. Such heartbreaking pain seemed to transmit Luoluo's inner pain to Ika, and she was silently asking for help from Ika. She's right in front. Ling replaced Ika and carried Way 11 on her back. Ika clutched his chest tightly with his hands, his nails digging into his flesh through the fabric of his clothes. He endured the heartbreaking pain hidden in the depths, and took the first step to run towards the giant stone formation in the distance. In the center of the circular formation of huge stone tablets that stand like a giant sword that cuts through the sky, there is a blue stone pedestal covered with mottled marks. Nowadays, the green magic power pouring out from the surrounding huge stone monuments is continuously converging somewhere on the blue stone pedestal. The woman next to the blue stone pedestal turned around. She wore a silk cheongsam embroidered with petal patterns, and her chestnut-colored curly hair was tied up high. You were, at that time. Ika and Ling recognized the 17 or 18-year-old woman in front of them. When they returned to the timeline a year ago with the help of Mentor Terra's magical costume in August, this woman once rescued them from the Imperial Knights who had joined forces and were unable to defeat them. Except for the difference in the pattern of the cheongsam, the woman in front of them was indeed the same as the woman they had rescued in the past. Li Shikaru, why are you here? Behind Ika and Ling, who didn't know what question to ask first, Liuyan called out the woman's name without thinking. He was given the surname Kalu. If I remember correctly, Tutor Terra, who holds the magical book of Omniscient, is also from the Kalu family of Fu, but Tutor Terra has never mentioned that she has other brothers and sisters. You guys are late. Could it be that you are from the Nemesis Society? Vel and Misty should be considered my subordinates, at least until yesterday. I don't know where they have gone now. They may have severed ties with the Nemesis Society. Because they had only met once in the past that reappeared, neither Ika nor Ling expected to meet this unknown woman again in this world, and that she would also be related to the Nemesis Society. Whether he is from the Kalu family with the surname Fu, or he is the boss of Will and Misty, these identities are completely meaningless to Ika. There was only one question he wanted to ask. Where is Luoluo? Miss Luoluo's words. Lalicia held her hands and walked away from the bluestone platform with a smile, showing the full view of the bluestone platform behind her in front of Ika and the others. Luoluo, who was only wearing a white dress, was like a sacrificial offering. He held his hands in front of his chest and lay flat on the bluestone platform behind Lalicia. The magic power of the giant stone tablet is not concentrated in the bluestone platform. The bluestone platform is just an ordinary inorganic object. The magic power of the world tree that supports the entire world flows into Luoluo's slender body. Even though it contained a huge amount of magic power that ordinary people could never bear, Luoluo, who closed his eyes lightly and seemed to be asleep, did not show a trace of pain. The slender body is like a calm sea, absorbing all the green magic power of the world tree into itself. What did you do to her? Holding back the pain that became more and more intense, as if his chest was being torn apart, Ika summoned the silver guns, raised the muzzles of the guns without any hesitation, and pulled the trigger. However, the ground at the foot of the giant stone monument suddenly began to shake, as if thousands of huge beasts were moving deep underground. The magic bullet fired from Ika's gun suddenly lost its accuracy and was sucked into the green torrent of magic. The flat plains rose high, and invisible forces tore the land apart, forming criss-crossing bottomless abyss. The circular array of giant stone monuments that gathered the magic power of the world tree rolled up a green tornado, like a violent elf or a giant dragon falling from the sky. The violent updraft caused the space to distort. Thankfully Komake brought Miss Luoluo back. With her, we can activate the magic of the world tree in an incomplete state. The interior of the world tree began to collapse, as if indicating that a major change was about to begin. Lilicia's beautiful voice was not shaken by the sudden change of scenery, and the script she wrote herself was about to reach its climax. This is the final stage for this world to shine. The violent green tornado swallowed Lilicia and Luoluo in the center of the giant stone monument, and their figures disappeared together with the blue stone platform. The violent tornado formed by the convergence of magic power took away Lilicia and Lolo, but the momentum still did not weaken, and the collapse within the world tree accelerated. Ika, look to the sky. Ika raised her head at Ling's reminder, and only then did she notice the most intuitive change in the sky. Like a storyboard between two worlds, the sky gradually takes on two different colors. On one side is the collapsing sky with lightning and thunder inside the world tree, and on the other side is the scarlet sky shrouded in bloody clouds. The sky filled with scarlet may be the sky in the outside world. The great barrier of the world tree disappeared, the two worlds lost their boundaries, and different worlds began to collide. It wasn't just the inside of the world tree that began to collapse. The foundation of the world was shaken, and the entire world began to undergo earth-shaking changes. The magical tornado that swept through the giant stone circle caused the atmosphere to vibrate, sounding like a continuous wail. The monument is going to disappear. The huge stone monument towering in the clouds was ground by wind pressure from the top, turning into pitch black sand and being swept into the center of the tornado that compressed the atmosphere. The pale green magic gradually dyed it into a pitch black color similar to the black sand and stone. The figure of light answered everyone's side silently. She was originally planning to hand over the ritual of awakening Way 11 to Hitomi, the incarnation of the world tree, and she would only silently guard Ling in her spiritual world, but the current situation no longer allowed for such leisurely relaxation. The center of the world tree has begun to collapse. If we don't wake up Way 11 before she completely collapses, there will be no chance. Hitomi. The silver-white twin guns in his hands returned to the form of a kimono girl. Seeing that Hitomi, who was the incarnation of the world tree, was still safe when the center collapsed, Ika felt a little relieved. Although Hitomi is equivalent to the consciousness separated from the world tree itself, just like Way 11's phantom in the ruins relative to Way 11 herself, Hitomi also said that the world tree is the world tree and she is her, and the two are independent existences. How to wake up Way 11 now? Do you know what to do? Ika was originally prepared to study patiently, but the ruthless fact did not even leave them time to breathe. Just as Guang said, this is the last chance to awaken Way 11, and we must not lose it. Ika asked Hitomi in an unusually urgent tone. We need to make Snow Tide G resonate with the magic power of World Tree, but now the magic power of World Tree is losing very quickly. Even Hitomi's tone revealed a hint of helplessness. Let's try it together with Hitomi. Guang stood up. Although I use myself to slow down the collapse of the world tree, that is only the last resort. Now let's use Hitomi and I's spiritual world to accommodate the world tree. A container of magic power. Hikaru said and looked at Hitomi. Hitomi also looked back at her, without any other expression, but this was Hitomi's expression that she had no objection to Guang's suggestion of cooperation. Hitomi and Hikaru simultaneously developed two realms. Under the gentle spring breeze, the cherry blossom trees took root in an oasis surrounded by sparkling lakes. Among the oasis covered with petals, there is a pavilion paved with vermilion glazed tiles. The two realms that blended with each other instantly dispelled the magic tornado in the real world, and the collapse of the monolith was frozen in the last moment. When Aika first met Hitomi, it was in such a beautiful scene that overlapped with the real world. Master, this way. Recall the feeling when you and Xuechaoshiji made a contract. Aika hugged Wei 11, walked onto the curved bridge connecting the lakeshore and the oasis, walked into the small and exquisite pavilion, and sat down with Wei 11's body leaning against the pavilion. Recalling the feeling when the contract was signed, it was the warm current that connected the bodies and minds of Aika and Wei 11. The flying cherry blossom petals outside the pavilion fell on the tips of Wei 11's pure white hair, but she was still asleep without knowing it. Aika lovingly picked off the petal, held it between her fingers, then held her shoulders and faced herself. Get up, Wei 11. Recalling every bit of Wei 11's life, her mind was completely occupied by the pure white elf. Aika leaned down and kissed her soft lips. The pure white magic power swept by the wind wrapped up the small and exquisite pavilion, reconnecting the two people's contract and turning it into a warm current that melted the body and mind, flowing through Aika's body. The prince gave a passionate kiss, and the sleeping princess slowly opened her sleepy eyes surrounded by pure white light. The hazy eyes told Aika that she didn't seem to understand what was happening, but she was more active in asking for a kiss from Aika. But when her little hand touched Aika's chest, her eyes widened as if she had discovered something, and the flush on her cheeks was particularly obvious in the pure white light. She suddenly pushed Aika away with both hands, her breathing became very rapid, and her moist lips that had just tasted the prince's kiss trembled weakly. Brother Aika. Hey, no, isn't it a dream? Ignoring Wei 11's pushing and rubbing, Aika forcefully hugged her petite body tightly again. This made Wei 11, who had not yet understood the situation, shrink into Aika's arms and remain motionless in confusion. I hope this is definitely not a dream. Aika's warm embrace conveyed the message that this was reality to Wei 11. Wei 11, you are finally back. He was attacked by Weir on the front-line battlefield of the Tiburai Kingdom. When he was about to die, he took the initiative to terminate the contract with Aika and froze his own life. In this fairyland-like scenery, the time that Wei 11 had interrupted began to flow again. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 467. The prince's kiss is so rough. The mission is over. Guang approached Aika and Wei 11 with a smile, and Hitomi quickly walked over without changing her expression, and separated Aika and Wei 11 who were hugging each other. Ling and Liuyan, who were guarding the back, also walked into the pavilion. Seeing Wei 11 with her eyes open, Liuyan couldn't control his excitement and rushed towards her to hug her. Xiaoyan. Why is everyone here? Where is this? The spiritual world where Hitomi and Hikari unfolded faded away, and the collapse of the monolith returned to its original speed. The scenery in front of her was constantly changing. Wei 11 looked around in panic. She still hadn't figured out the situation at all. There's no time to explain, so I'll keep it short. Wei 11, in order to wake you up, we came to the inside of the world tree. And there is another thing. The capital of Senchia Principality, which was sealed and transferred with you and Liuyan, also happened to be in this place has developed into something you don't recognize at all. The Principality of Senchia. It seemed that Wei 11 was able to understand after this explanation. She should also know that her barrier might involve the area they were in at the time. If this continues, World Tree will really be destroyed. If World Tree is destroyed, Hitomi. It doesn't matter. Hitomi relieved Aika's worries with a positive answer. The two of them communicated for such a long time under the moon last night, and Hitomi should no longer spend her life making up lies just to reassure Aika. But when we came here, the first prince and Misty both said it, right? If the World Tree is destroyed, the Sentia Principality living here will also be destroyed. Liu Yin's idea at the moment was to save the World Tree. She didn't want the country Wei 11 was guarding with all her heart to have her last hope destroyed. If Wei 11 knew the inside story, she would definitely choose to save the World Tree to save the Principality of Sentia. Regarding the issue of World Tree's survival, Ling's attitude is consistent with Liu Yin's. The World Tree is the root of the world. Now none of us know what kind of changes will happen to the world if this thing is destroyed. In short, from what we have seen with our own eyes, that kind of change is definitely not a good thing. Before the World Tree completely collapsed, the world had already experienced such a large-scale change in the world. If it completely collapses, the world may also turn into chaos. At this time, Aika PDA received a contact from afar. Unexpectedly, the contact person was Lan Ming, who was far away in the Tiburai Kingdom. The development of the capital of the Principality of Sentia also used human magic technology. Since the magic signal was received here, it means that the Great Barrier that separated the World Tree from the world really no longer exists. Aika, are you in the World Tree now? The voice on the other side of the PDA seemed extremely anxious. Lan Ming continued speaking very quickly without waiting for Aika to answer. Now there are people in the BZ Empire. A large number of monsters, it's like awakening hell. After the Holy Sea's Blue Knight, who had his hands on the mimicry-clad Orefhel and caused the destruction of the royal capital, came to an end, the Holy See sent people to take away Orefhel, and Gurley naturally followed them back to the Holy See to listen to the Holy See's instructions. Congratulations to Oliifer. Pope Sethis personally came forward and finally gave the Tiburai Kingdom an explanation, avoiding the most dangerous breakdown of negotiations. In the next few days, Lan Ming, with the help of Professor Charlotte and Coconut, coordinated the original purpose of coming to the Tiburai Kingdom. Finally, 2 days later, Lan Ming announced the establishment of the Orthodox Bis Empire royal family with the support of the Tiburai Kingdom. I, Lan Ming Yila, hereby swear that I will take back the glory of the empire from the hands of the usurper. The flag of the Ila family of the Bis Empire royal family will surely fly on the land that has been passed down for centuries. Lan Ming's declaration of independence quickly spread throughout the BZ Empire on the day the alliance with the Tiburai Kingdom was concluded, and acted like an accelerant to catalyze the intense civil war in the BZ Empire. As the backstage support for the royal family of the Orthodox BZ Empire, the Tiburai Kingdom will literally support Lan Ming's counterattack in all aspects. Your Majesty the King, your army entered the border of the Bis Empire for the reason of anti-invasion, and it happened to form a situation of cooperation with the Revolutionary Army in the Bis Empire. We were divided by your army and the Revolutionary Army when the Imperial Army intervened in the civil war at the right time and suppressed the hostile forces that threaten the current queen. By controlling the outbreak point of the civil war from the root, the situation in the Bis Empire can be eased. In order to deal with the civil war in the country, the BZ Empire has withdrawn its troops from our country's borders. They should also expect that we will take this opportunity to launch a counterattack. Our country's Minister of Military Affairs, Lord Fawston, does have such considerations, and the radical forces in the Senate will do their best to suppress the domestic Revolutionary Army after seeing our announcement to avoid internal and external troubles. But what we have to do after all, nothing has changed, that is, if you don't enter the tiger's den, you won't get the tiger's cubs. Ha ha ha, if you don't enter the tiger's den, you won't get the cub. Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila really has the courage to become a king. Our country has the right to send troops to the Bis Empire, and I hope to be able to help you. I must rush back as soon as possible. If Ming's revolutionary army really fights the retreating imperial army, they may be captured within a few days. It's not that Lan Ming doesn't believe in his sister, but because the difference in strength is clearly in front of him. The imperial army, which even the well-trained kingdom army had difficulty resisting, only fought with small-scale revolutionary armies assembled from various places, and there was no chance of victory at all. Ming probably hopes that I can see her efforts. To this day, she still believes in me as her sister. Then, there is absolutely no reason to disappoint her. After the Declaration of Independence was released, the Tiberai Kingdom began to accelerate the reorganization of its army and prepare for a counterattack against the Bes Empire. However, just one day later, the entire sky was dyed scarlet blood, turning into a scene like the end of the world. Although no abnormality was reported in the Tiberai Kingdom, it seemed to be just a simple change in the sky. But looking up at such a sky, Lan Ming still felt a dull feeling in his heart. "Charlotte, I always feel like something bad will happen." "Your Highness." Suddenly, the commissioner of the Tiberai Kingdom hurriedly knocked on the door of Lan Ming and Xiaoluo's room. "Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila, His Majesty the King asks you to go to the conference hall immediately." Sure enough, as Lan Ming had expected, today was an unstable day. Lan Ming and Charlotte came to the conference hall. Professor Kokina was also notified to come here just like them. The giants of the Tiberai Kingdom had already gathered here. As soon as he walked into the door of the conference hall, he was so shocked by the images played on the huge screen in front of him that he lost his voice. "What is that?" "Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila, after the sky turned like this, our country's internal line just sent back such an image from the Bis Empire. It was probably a picture taken from above the town using a drone. The picture played was a hell-like scene against the blood-red sky. The undead skeletons that emerged from the depths of the earth include skeleton soldiers with armor on their skeletons like humans, as well as huge monsters whose flesh has not completely decayed. That scene was like giving life to the dead things sleeping underground, awakening the bones of the undead from hell. Calling it a hell-like scene is not an exaggeration, but a reality. Both the ground and the sky were occupied by the skeletons of the undead that were pressing down like an army, and everything they could see was a large area of darkness. This is an image transmitted from a remote town. The imperial capital and surrounding towns are not within our surveillance range, but the situation should not be much different. Now our country's insiders are fully investigating the situation around the imperial capital." Lan Ming clenched his fists. "This is not a civil war at all. I don't know who used what magic to awaken the undead skeletons that should have been sleeping deep underground forever, as if they were recreating an event on the scale of the destruction of the royal capital caused by Orpheus's manipulation of the mimic magic equipment. The scale is far from what it was when the royal capital was destroyed, because this situation is now happening all over the Bis Empire at the same time. Why on earth did it become like this, Candle Dragon Molten Gold, are you telling the truth?" "Your Highness." Xiaoluo looked at Lan Ming in confusion as he muttered something to himself, but Lan Ming didn't bother to explain to Xiaoluo and went straight to the two people who were also in the conference hall. "Lady Anili, Professor Kokina, please help me contact Ika. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 468. Unexpected changes not only threaten the outlying towns of the Bis Empire, but the imperial capital is also invaded by the undead army. Everywhere you can see are the skeletons of the undead who attack the citizens and the army indiscriminately. "I understand, please be careful." Ming, who was deep in August Castle, put down the communicator in his hand. She had just learned about the current situation in the imperial capital from the Revolutionary Army's contact network, and quickly changed her target from suppressing their imperial army to the demands of the undead army. Your Highness, what should we do? Since the outbreak of the Civil War, the leader of the Purple Rose Knights, Alv Galain, who has been guarding Zi Ming at all times, has sought Zi Ming's advice. Prioritize protecting the safety of citizens. It is impossible to continue the civil war at this time. Those people should also know. After the civil war broke out in the BZ Empire, Zi Ming began to personally organize a united front of conservative forces distributed throughout the territory. This was the power Lan Ming had reserved for her before leaving the BZ Empire, and Zi Ming must make good use of it. Zi Ming also realized that the Revolutionary Army could not last long in a state of disorganization. The power of the radical faction in the Senate is obviously far superior to Zi Ming's Revolutionary Army. At present, she can only try to maintain a balanced situation in the civil war and wait for opportunities to counterattack. While she was pondering how to evacuate the citizens in the imperial capital, a revolutionary soldier ran into the castle hall. Reporting to Her Majesty the Queen, the enemy's army has begun to attack Augustus. Why are they still? Could it be that the radicals in the Senate continue to wage civil war at the expense of their citizens in order to seize the power of the Bis Empire? August is protected by a barrier. The undead army in the imperial capital will not invade here for the time being, but the barrier cannot last long. I know, Ryan. Now for those imperial soldiers, fighting us inside Augustus will definitely have a higher chance of surviving than fighting the undead army outside Augustus. Anja, don't leave my side. I will do my best to protect Her Royal Highness the Princess. Ng, who was also guarding Zi Mingzuo, replied respectfully. A few days ago, Anja successfully infiltrated Augustus aboard the Protasta Kongzi ship. Currently guarding the gate of August Castle are Zi Ming's revolutionary forces, and they all know Anja's identity. The little maid who is not good at fighting is still wearing a cyan dress with a white apron, and her black shoulder-length hair looks cute. But she wore two short-barreled flintlock guns on her waist that were incompatible with this cute atmosphere. This was to become Zi Ming's strength at unforeseen critical moments. In Augustine, the war between the Revolutionary Army and the Imperial Army is at a fever pitch. Only protected by the barrier from the invasion of the undead army, the cannibalism between humans and humans continues. Outside of August, the undead skeletons crawling out of hell are launching indiscriminate attacks on all living things. Both the Revolutionary Army and the Imperial Army are regarded as targets of attack, and naturally they have no spare power to continue the civil war. Wearing a gorgeous dress decorated with layers of ruffles and white lace, Zi Ming came to the upper floors of the August Castle and looked down at the August plains that had turned into a battlefield. We obviously live in the same world, but why do we always hurt each other and fight with each other? Zi Ming's whisper exuded endless sadness, and the golden pupil of her left eye shone with the brilliance of magic. Even though the ability wielded by her candle dragon molten gold is taboo for life, if she wants to stop the endless war, she must first take a step forward by herself, rather than hiding in the safe depths of the castle. The golden coat of arms of the royal family Ela appeared in the sky above August, contrasting with the scarlet sky, instantly attracting the attention of all the soldiers on the battlefield. Everyone, please put down the killing weapons in your hands. Zi Ming's ethereal voice sounded in the battlefield. Her voice was spread throughout the battlefield through resonance through the molten gold of the candle dragon. When our swords are facing each other, here, the citizens of the Bis Empire are suffering and dying. As proud soldiers of the Bis Empire, you put the people you should protect in dire straits, but here you are wielding weapons for the so-called power and money. How is this? Sadness. I believe you are still confused in your hearts. I hope you can calm down and think about what it is that we should protect. Her Highness the Queen's voice caused the soldiers on both sides of the battlefield to stop fighting and listen to these earnest words of instruction. Indeed, As Ziming said, they still have confusion about the birth of this civil war. Half an hour from now, I will lift the barrier protecting August. We cannot hide in the comfortable birdcage forever, but should raise the weapons in our hands to protect our country. I hope that by then the proud soldiers of the Empire can rise up and drive out of our country one by one the skeletons of the undead that should not be here. Lifting the barrier protecting August, this means that all life within August will perish. The ceremony to lift the barrier will begin half an hour from now. Ziming's request is that everyone, including the Purple Rose Knights and Anja, evacuate August immediately. Otherwise, except for Ziming himself, no one within the anti-resonance range of Zilong Molten Gold would be spared. Not long after, both armies on the battlefield withdrew their troops. The conservative forces holding on to August Castle also withdrew from Ziming's side at the last moment. There are no humans except Ziming in the whole territory of August that Zilong Molten Gold has explored. Such an ability can only come in handy at times like this. The golden coat of arms of the Ila family spread out in the scarlet sky with August Castle as the center, quickly covering the entire territory of August. The golden coat of arms became more and more dazzling, purple magic particles flew around her body with the rising magic power, and her noble long hair also danced with it. Ziming activated the anti-resonance of the candle dragon's molten gold. It is a forbidden magic that can completely eliminate the magic power of a certain area and turn that area into a wasteland. The barrier protecting Augustus disappeared in an instant, and all the life in the lush and vibrant territory of Augustus instantly withered and turned into dark black dust blowing in the wind. At the same time that August's barrier was lifted, the undead army that had been eyeing him for a long time immediately swarmed in outside August. If I can continue. The group of black undead skeletons were also activated by magic. As long as the anti-resonance of the candle dragon's molten gold was used again to eliminate the magic, they could be rendered powerless. However, the candle dragon's molten gold put a huge burden on Ziming's body, and there was no way to use the power of the magic equipment repeatedly. The pure white dress exudes a touch of magic fluorescence. Even if he loses the power of the magic suit, Ziming still has enough power to fight against the undead army. I will protect my country. She cheered up. Professor Kokina customized a magical machine that transcended generations for her, and Ziming decided to fight alone. Behind the undead army pressing towards Augustus Castle like a tide, several different family crests shone. That is the family coat of arms of the Ryan family and several other surnamed families in the Order of the Purple Rose. Under the golden battle flag raised by Ziming, the Purple Rose Knight, who swore to always guard the princess, returned to the battlefield. It seems that I am not fighting alone. After the anti-resonance effect of the candle dragon's molten gold disappeared, the Revolutionary Army and the Imperial Army that withdrew from Augustine split into a joint attack, and cooperated with Ziming and the Purple Rose Knights inside and outside, and began to charge from the unprepared rear of the undead army. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 469. Ika, what did Lan Ming say? It seems that the BZ Empire has also been affected by the collapse of the World Tree. Putting down the PDA, Ika sorted out the information Lan Ming conveyed to Zilong melting gold for everyone. The magic circle formed from the ruins of the World Tree is supposed to have the effect of eliminating magic particles across the continent, but if activated in an incomplete state, it will be reversed into magic that gives life to dead things. Now the magic of the World Tree is restricted to the BZ Empire, which is said to have turned into a hell-like scene. Now is not the time to start a civil war. I must return to the BZ Empire to assist Ziming. The Tiburai Kingdom is already preparing to leave. Ika, let's take the first step. It seems that Lan Ming and the others who stayed in the Tiburai Kingdom have completed their purpose. There is already their stage over there, and the task Lan Ming entrusted to Ika is actually almost completed. Lan Ming, have a nice trip. Ika, You have to work hard over there. We will go to the imperial capital to wait for you first. This is the farewell of Lan Ming and Ika. The Tiberai kingdom will break into the Bis Empire as Lan Ming's support force, and join forces with the conservative forces within the territory to fight against the undead army. Lolo and that woman must be somewhere in August. We will go there right now. But are you just going to let the world tree continue to collapse? If the world tree collapses completely when everyone drives away the undead army, there will really be no way to save the world. Light, you said before that there is a way to slow down the collapse of the world tree, right? Although I use myself to slow down the collapse of the world tree, that is only the last resort. Ika remembered Hikaru saying such a thing at that time. But everyone was focused on the matter of waking up Wei 11 at that time, and did not ask Guang in detail what he meant by that sentence. If Hitomi is the symbol of the world tree, then I am the seed of the world tree. The light flame sword controls the original elements of nature, because it itself is the most primitive form of the world tree. It's such an important thing. I didn't expect you and Hitomi to say it until the last minute. Because this kind of thing usually makes no difference whether you say it or not, Hikaru didn't know where he learned the excuse Hitomi once used. Even if I am the seed of the world tree, I can only delay the collapse of the world tree. The speed is also a bit difficult. Let's try it first, but my master also needs to stay here. In that case, can't I go with Ika and the others? Ling hesitated a little. She didn't want Ika and the others to be unable to provide any strength to them while they were working hard on the battlefield of the Bis Empire. As long as my master stays here, the magic suit can release all its power. I'm a little worried about leaving Ling and Guang in such a dangerous place. After all, this is an environment that everyone is unfamiliar with, and the situation is already very serious now. No one can guarantee that new changes will not occur during the collapse of the world tree. Not only Ling, but also Ika was hesitant about this prerequisite. While everyone was hesitating, between the boundary lines where Azure and Scarlet intersected, a graceful aviation magic ship entered the interior of the world tree. Mistus. Ika and Ling are very familiar with this aviation magic ship, whose overall performance ranks first in the continent. It is the airspace overlord that Chuyu Academy is proud of. The PDAs of the 3 Shigetsuki Academy students received an internal communication at the same time. It was a collective communication sent from the aviation magic ship Mistus. Hello, hello. Ika, Ling, and Xiao 11, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Chiuke. Behind Chiuke, there were 3 other student council members, and Rilu had returned to Shimazuki Academy safely. Classmate Ika, it seems that you have done something incredible in less than half a month since you left the territory of the gods. Instructor Letica, who became the Queen of the Gods, is also in Mistus. She has finally become accustomed to the big incidents caused by the students in her class, and she no longer even repeats the ineffective words of blame. After Teacher Letica, the figure of Principal Phyllis also appeared in the center of the screen. The Nemesis Society's use of the World Tree to cause changes in the world has violated the Continental Treaty. Next, Frost Moon Academy will act as a neutral area and take over this area. The implication of Principal Phyllis's words was to imply that Ika and the others could no longer worry about the problems on the World Tree side and could go to the Bis Empire to cause trouble as they pleased. The proof is that Teacher Letica, who understood what Principal Phyllis was saying, blamed her off-screen again for the safety of her students. Ika, I'm sorry, I'd better stay here. Ling beside him suddenly spoke up, cutting off Ika's hesitation. If only Guang and I can maintain the World Tree, then we have no reason to escape. Responsibility. Although it's a pity that I can't be your strength, my heart is always with you. What only you can do is my rare power. Ika did not remain confused and summoned the aviation magic ship headed for the Bis Empire. Yggdrasil and Mistus passed each other in the sky. They left. In the central command room of the aviation magic ship Mistus, Chiuke, the student council president of Shimizuki Academy, looked at the silver aviation magic ship gradually receding on the big screen and said regretfully, "Teacher Wilbur, we have found Ling's PDA signal. I will lead the discipline team to support her. Be safe. Letica, you take Akatsuki and Lilu to communicate with the Principality of Sentia. After the communication is completed, the equipment department and the support department will assist the people in evacuating." Principal Phyllis quickly assigned the task. "The world, you must have looked at the map inside the tree many times, right?" Regarding the maps inside the world tree, no one except Principal Phyllis herself knows where they came from. That was the information obtained from the unknown facilitator in the early hours of this morning. At the same time, the specific coordinates of the world tree hidden in the Great Barrier were obtained. Shimizuki Academy immediately activated its self-developed large-scale magic machinery to prepare for a space jump. It took half a day to complete the preparation of the aviation magic ship Mistus and move it to the area where the world tree is located. The Principality of Sentia is now in a state of autonomy without a leader, and neutral regions need to take responsibility at this time. Principal Phyllis has the right to intervene in changes in the world, so Shimizuki Academy's actions will not be subject to public opinion from any force, so it is logical. Ling watched as the aviation-guided ship Yggdrasil carrying Ika and the others disappeared into the sky, then turned around and faced the monolith circle, took a deep breath, and turned all his attention to his magic suit. "Light, let's get started. Then please, my master, be prepared and persist until the incident in the BZ Empire is over. Do I still need you to remind me about this kind of thing?" Ling was now full of enthusiasm. "Besides, Ika and the others can definitely solve the incident in a matter of seconds. It seems that my master is in good condition." The figure of the girl in Hakuma's skirt disappeared on the spot and transformed into a red-gold longsword again. Ling stretched out her hand to hold the suspended handle of the knife, and golden particles flying in the sky rose around her body, gradually forming the base point of some kind of magic array, covering the entire circular array of giant stone monuments. Immediately afterwards, the huge stone tablets inserted into the ground were uprooted and rearranged in the magic array shining with red gold light, and the dazzling golden light shot straight into the sky. When Tairuya and the members of the Fengji group rushed to the giant stone monument circle shrouded in golden light, the ceremony of Ling Egwang had already begun. The constant changes occurring in the suburban wilderness area have attracted the attention of the people of the Principality of Sentia, and a small group that appears to be some kind of organization has come to investigate. Our mission is not to let others disturb Ling. Frost Moon Academy has entered the Principality of Sentia and has begun to explain the situation and subsequent arrangements to those in power. The discipline team methodically evacuated the people who came to the stone monument circle to find out what was going on, and were alert to dangers that might arise at any time. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 470. Zi Ming's figure flexibly shuttled among the flying corpses of monsters. Targeting the group of monster corpses flying high in the sky, Zi Ming's pure white dress unfolded pure white angel wings on her back, and burst out feathers filled with magic power. The feathers pouring out like a torrential rain swept up the oncoming monster corpses. The white feathers swirled into the joints of the bones, shredding the rotten muscles, and then exploded. The debris of the monster's corpse was flying everywhere, but it did not stain Zi Ming's pure white dress with a trace of dirt. The angel's wings folded up, protecting Zi Ming's body within them, turning into a pure white spiral. The vortex of light swept away the group of monster corpses that filled the airspace. The most powerful direct night order in the BZ Empire is invincible. Wherever the purple rose knight points its sword, it is an invincible land opened up. The Revolutionary Army and the Imperial Army shared the same hatred at this time, and combined their forces to send the undead corpses pouring into August from the ground back to the depths of hell again. Elder Sister. Thinking of Lan Ming, who had solemnly announced the Declaration of Independence a few days ago, new strength surged from Zi Ming's body. She once again danced on the battlefield in a pure white dress, and the angel's holy light shone on the earth. What on earth is it? In the hiding place of the radical faction of the Senate, Emilius shouted angrily. I originally thought that by bringing back the imperial troops that attacked the Tiberi kingdom, it would be easy to suppress the rebellion of the conservative forces. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, something unexpected happened without warning. Probably only the Nemesis Society can achieve this level, right? The timing is so accurate, it seems that they know our actions well. Philip Ela sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, with a leisurely attitude of sitting back and watching. That's fine, in terms of the base of the army, we are far superior to that little girl. The first one to be exhausted must be the little girl's side. What's the use of this short-term victory? When our side is almost exhausted, the goal of the Nemesis Society is to get rid of us. Shut up. Just obey my orders. Then I'm really sorry, Philip Ela said with an unknown smile on his face, I'm sorry to have to obey. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The space next to the sofa was distorted, and a young woman with a slim figure in a silk cheongsam appeared here. Supporters of the radical forces suddenly appeared in the room, and Emilius, who was dizzy with anger, did not raise his alertness. Your Excellency Lalicia, haven't you already taken refuge? Taking shelter, do I need to do something boring like that? You. Before Emilius finished speaking, his old head rolled down on the red carpet. Immediately afterwards, the same old headless body fell backward. I hate it, the fan is all dirty. Lalicia snapped and folded the classical folding fan that killed Emilius. Instead of looking at the fallen Emilius, she turned back to look for Philippe Ela, who gave her the signal. Haha, what a cunning man. Philippe Ela's figure had long since disappeared without a trace. He had probably prepared a way to escape from the beginning. Beside Lalicia, Lugo, who was wearing a pure white dress, also appeared. She gently touched Lugo's long, silky hair as if coaxing a child, then put her red lips close to Lugo's ear and whispered an order. Miss Lugo, just like when we captured the Imperial Intelligence Agency, let's bring the BZ Empire's army under our banner. At some point in time, the Imperial Army defected for unknown reasons. The Imperial Army, which originally shared the same enemy and began to join forces with the Revolutionary Army to annihilate the Undead Army, turned its target to the conservative forces. However, the Undead Army, which carried out indiscriminate attacks, seemed to have consciously avoided attacking the Imperial Army. The two sides launched a general attack on the conservative forces at the same time. The citizens of the imperial capital had not received organized evacuation since the mutiny occurred, and all the citizens who had not had time to flee to the shelters hid in their own homes. But a house made of tiles and rocks is not worth mentioning in front of the huge monster corpse. Just a slight brush will cause the house to tilt and collapse. The center of the empire, which was a bustling place a few hours ago, suddenly fell into a quagmire of fear and helplessness. On that day, the citizens of the BZ Empire finally recalled the horror of being dominated by inhuman things and the shame of being imprisoned in false peace. The figure of a large aviation-guided ship suddenly appeared in the sky above the imperial capital that had turned into hell. Lan Ming's exclusive royal aviation-guided ship, Ostara, welcomed her real master at the border of the BZ Empire. Engraved with the blooming blue Qianggui's ship brought a light of hope to the imperial capital. Lan Ming stood in the center of the open-air deck of Ostara and began to conduct wide-area synchronization of the imperial capital area. The golden eyes bloomed with golden light, and the coat of arms of the Ela family floated into the air. Synchrony, start. After receiving Lan Ming's signal from outside the BZ Empire, the Blue Rose Knights took back Lan Ming's exclusive royal aviation magic ship Ostara by force from the imperial capital's dedicated airport, and then went to the predetermined location to dock with Lan Ming. The aviation magic ship of the Tiberi kingdom that Ming returned safely. At this moment, the magic technicians of the conservative forces took full control of this heavily armed royal aviation magic ship, and 24 knights escorted Lan Ming all the way here. Resonance, start dash. The magical resonance of the candle dragon's molten gold instantly disarmed the controlled Imperial army. Prioritize assisting citizens to go to shelters. When Ostara arrived in the sky above the Imperial capital, the leader of the Knights of the Blue Rose, Wildman Agos, quickly commanded his Templars to carry out the instructions given by Lan Ming on the way, while Charlotte shouldered the responsibility alone. He assumed the important responsibility of guarding Her Royal Highness the Princess and the Royal Aviation magic ship, and stayed on the bridge. It's Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming Yila. Her Royal Highness is back. I knew Her Royal Highness would never abandon us. Lan Ming's figure appeared in the center of the battlefield, inspiring the confidence of all citizens and soldiers. The corpse of a two-legged monster destroyed the roof of the house with its claws, exposing the family hiding in the house. The monster corpse originally only attacked based on instinct, but now it purposefully pushed the family into a desperate situation. They were targeted by the monster corpse and could not escape the fate of death. Just when the monster corpse raised its bone claw again and prepared to swing it down, a figure with a fluttering blue and white cloak passed by the terrifying huge body. The time of the monster corpse seemed to pause for an instant, and then it was cut into two parts from the center of the huge body, and the upper body bones fell to the ground with a dull sound. The flag of the Holy See fluttered in the wind in the center of several medium-sized aviation magic ships. The Holy See's strongest armed forces were deployed. In addition to the highest-ranking Blue Knights, subordinate knights also joined the battlefield. This is the first time since the establishment of the Holy See that all Holy See Knights have been involved in a real war. Now we begin to fulfill our agreement with the Twin Towers of Bizi to save the Saints' believers. The blessing of Lady Saint Anili will bring an eternal future to the Bizi Empire. Through the projection magic of the aviation magic ship, Pope Sethes, who visited the battlefield in person, conveyed this hidden prayer to all the people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 471. Using Way 11's space jump, the aviation magic ship Yggdrasil moved to the sky above August within a few seconds. The fierce battle on the August plains can be seen in the distance. The undead army smelled the huge magic power emanating from Yggdrasil and gathered here one after another. It seems right, Luoluo and that woman are indeed here. Ika felt it. As long as Luoluo is nearby, the magical path between the two will tell Ika where she is. As soon as they returned to the ground, everyone was immediately surrounded by a group of monster corpses. Ika summoned the silver-white spears, and Liuyan held the ice-condensed spears with both hands. I'm sorry, Xiao 11, Ika, I'm going back to the Holy See. Liuyan had just received the assembly order sent to her by the Holy See's insiders. Now the undead army gathered in the 4th district of the imperial capital. In comparison, August's situation was not that serious. Go ahead, Liuyan. That's the place where you can maximize your talents. Xiaoan, come on. I will do the same. Well, Xiao 11, don't force yourself, be careful. The same goes for Ika. Am I just incidental? Don't be mean. Liuyan was embarrassed and waved the ice-condensing spear randomly, and she didn't know if it was a coincidence, but it happened to pierce the corpse of the approaching monster. When the monster corpse is sent back to hell, it will turn into dark gray ashes and scatter in the wind, leaving no creepy corpse behind. Then again, they were just corpses. Ika and Wei 11 ran in opposite directions with their backs to Liuyan. Liuyan wanted to enter the imperial capital through the August plains where Ziming and the Purple Rose Knights were fighting, while Ika took Wuxi to break through to Luoluo's location. Ika also raised his silver-white spears to attack, and under the protection of Wei 11's barrier, he killed all the way until he broke into the August castle. Following the traces left by Lolo, Ika finally found her somewhere in August Castle. The magical path between the two of them will lead Ika's way. No matter how far away Lolo is, the red thread of fate always connects the two, so Ika can always find her immediately. Lelicia was standing on the edge of the castle's high platform, looking at the fierce battle on the August plains. She turned around after noticing that Ika and Way 11 had arrived. "Welcome both of you." With a snap, she folded the classical folding fan that half covered her mouth, and Lelicia politely said hello to Ika and Way 11. Next to her, Lolo did not look at the two familiar family members. Ika and Way 11 were not reflected in Lolo's godless eyes. Just like when he saw her in a dark wedding dress in the Palace of the Gods, the two were strangers. "Lelicia, although I don't know what your purpose is, I will not let Lolo stay by your side. I have been chasing him here just to take Lolo home from the hands of your nemesis society." No need for Ika to explain, Lelicia already knew the purpose of Ika chasing after her. She walked behind Lolo and used a folding fan to lift her chin. Lolo showed no resistance, like a puppet at the mercy of others. "I didn't do anything excessive to Miss Lolo, I just used her magical costume ability a little bit. This child is just helping me achieve my purpose now. After everything is over, I will leave her intact. Give it back to you." Lelicia's slender fingers crossed Lolo's cheek, and this provocative action aroused Ika's anger. But now Lolo is still in her hands, so Ika still maintains patience and continues the conversation with Lelicia. "There is no need to wait for everything to end. You are the mastermind of this commotion, right? As long as I stop you, everything will also be over. I also accidentally got the truth about the world tree and the magic costume from someone. I didn't expect the magic of the world tree to have such an effect. The magic that originally eliminated all the magic particles in the continent and returned the continent to its original state was the magic of the world tree to this cleaning up the world. Reversing the magic of the world tree like this is just another form of cleaning up the world. Is your purpose also revenge?" Lelicia's eyes became sharp when she heard Ika's question. "Don't apply that barbarian mentality to me. My purpose is to clean up the dark side of the Bess Empire and completely destroy the corrupt regime. This is just another way of saying it. What you do is no different from that of Will and Misty, Mishi and Komaki, and Orefhel. It's just that you use high-sounding reasons to realize your heart as you wish. It's just a delusion, and you haven't even considered how many people were harmed in the process. The silver and white guns in their hands are already loaded, and the two parties with conflicting values have no intention of negotiating from the beginning. What Ika has to do is to take back Lolo from Lelicia and defeat her to end the mutation in the world." Lelicia left Lolo's side, seemingly not wanting the battle to affect the props that could help her achieve her goal. "Way 11, protect yourself and look for opportunities to act again." Mechanical alchemy, skeleton circuit. A silver-white exoskeleton covers Ika's whole body. He pulled the triggers of the silver guns one after another, and 8 magic bullets were fired almost at the same time. Lelicia waved her hand and unfolded the classical folding fan in her hand, and accurately shot down Ika's bullet with the classical folding fan that looked like a decoration. From the appearance, Lelicia is as thoughtful as a mature woman, but she does not have an elegant temperament. On the way here, Ika heard Liuyan say that Lelicia Kuru was actually just a girl about the same age as Lilith Senpai. But Ika didn't dare to take her lightly. Because she is one of the leaders of the Nemesis Society, she does not hesitate to summon an army of undead to put thousands of innocent people to death in order to achieve unrealistic goals. Lelicia is no longer a young girl, but a monster who remains indifferent despite being burdened with countless lives and has completely deviated from humanity. Mechanical alchemy, Predator. With full firepower, Ika's 6 floating cannons constructed a laser net with no blind spots in all directions. At the same time, magic short blades were constructed at the muzzles of the twin guns, biting Lelicia's loopholes like poisonous snakes. "Brother Ika." "Me too. but before Way 11 could take a step, she felt the threat coming quickly and quickly deployed a magic barrier in front of her. That was Luoluo's attack on her. Luoluo stood there with lifeless eyes, the elemental magic between his fingers shining brilliantly. Her target was indeed Way 11 in front of her. She was probably ordered by Lalicia to hold Way 11 back. Lolo. Way 11 hesitated. If there was a real fight, Way 11 was fully confident that she could easily defeat Luoluo, but she did not dare to use magic on her favorite family member. If it hurts Luoluo. But Luoluo, whose emotions had been wiped away, did not hesitate. She once again released magic to Way 11, who was standing there at a loss. Although every attack was just an ordinary low-level magic, Way 11, who was confused and hesitant, had no idea how to deal with Luoluo, and could only remain in a passive position of being beaten. Lalicia, who seems weak, is actually on par with Aika. Her folding fan seemed to be some kind of magical tool, and every blow struck Aika with a sharp wind as sharp as a blade. Aika's double spear daggers were constantly blocked by Lalicia. As soon as there was a gap in Aika's attack, she immediately launched a sharp counterattack. The predator's laser net was also avoided by her using her flexible body. Hateful. The whole situation is at a stalemate. Aika gradually became anxious and controlled 6 floating cannons to block Lalicia's retreat. Mechanical alchemy Tungu's electric field. The arc flashed. The next moment, a dazzling light burst out from the arc network, triggering a violent ionization explosion. However, it's not over yet. The space around Aika was distorted, and he felt abnormal fluctuations in the magic equipment at the same time. Magic costume. Aika didn't know until this moment that her judgment was wrong. The folding fan in Lalicia's hand turned out to be a magic weapon. The figure in silk cheongsam appeared beside Aika out of thin air. Aika could only use her body's conditioned reflex to block Lalicia's fan blades with the short blades of her double guns. At this moment of hand-to-hand combat, Lalicia's figure merged into the air again, and the fluctuations in the magic outfit disappeared completely in an instant. What? The next moment Aika lost his target, a sharp folding fan cut open his side with wind pressure. Blood flowed continuously from the incision, and a large area of his flank was stained red with blood. Aika endured the severe pain and drove the exoskeleton to quickly distance herself. Lalicia's seemingly gentle blow actually broke the exoskeleton built by mechanical alchemy. Only genuine magic equipment can achieve this level. This woman is very dangerous. What to do? Aika couldn't find a breakthrough for a while. Even if he showed his current strength, he could only draw a tie. He fully activated the magic power flowing in his blood, and Tailua Senpai's half-vampire blood boiled throughout his body. Although the characteristics of the vampire blood could not heal the wound immediately, it gradually solidified the blood on the surface. Lalicia raised the corners of her mouth and showed a smile that was sure of her victory. She would not leave Aika any time to breathe, and cut down the edge of the folding fan with a charming light. The 6 floating cannons returned to Aika's side, all of their muzzles aimed at Lalicia's vital points, and the magic power in the twin guns was compressed to the maximum extent. This fight is the moment of life and death. Which one is faster, Lalicia's blade, or her own bullets? At this moment, all the magic evaporated without warning. Whether it was a predator or a pair of guns, everything turned into silver-white particles and dissipated at this moment. Only Lalicia's folding fan still shone with the brilliance of magic power, and it was cut down against the wind. This time I also failed to save Luoluo. Aika's body fell into magic depletion syndrome, and she couldn't even move a finger. Naturally, she couldn't avoid Lalicia's fatal blow. There was no fear of death in his mind, only Luoluo's face looking at him with a smile appeared. Goodbye, Chi's family brat. Aika didn't see the moment the fan blade fell. The girl who loved him more than anyone else in the world opened her hands and stood in front of Aika. The fan-shaped sharp blade cut open the white dress and the delicate skin. The blood splattered from her back was reflected in Ika's pupils like slow motion. Her eyes that gradually lost their luster conveyed her long-standing guilt and regret to the person who was most important to her. Luluo fell into Ika's arms silently. The slender fingers unconsciously grasped Ika's chest tightly, and the nails dug deeply into Ika's flesh, but the pain caused to Ika's body was far less than 1/10,000th of what she had endured. Lolo. This kind of thing couldn't have happened in the first place. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 472. The Royal Aviation guided ship used the heavy weapons carried on the ship to bombard the corpses of monsters covering the blood-red sky. Wearing silver armor with blooming blue roses engraved on their shoulders, the Knights of the Blue Rose formed a united front with the Holy See and the Revolutionary Army. The Imperial Army, which had been disarmed by Lan Ming, regained their sanity and raised their steel shields and iron swords without magical weapons. Join the war of national salvation in a mighty way. Lan Ming has tried. The vitality given to the undead army by the magic of the world tree cannot be erased by the ability of the candle dragon to melt gold, so it cannot directly use resonance and synchronization to destroy the overwhelming corpses of monsters. Therefore, Lan Ming decisively decided to give up finding another way and use his full strength to support the warriors fighting bravely on the ground. Her Royal Highness the Princess's golden flag has been flying under the bloody sky for a long time. Zhi Ming has cleaned up all the corpses of the monsters in the August airspace, but the Purple Rose Knights and the Imperial Army controlled by unknown reasons are still fighting in the August plains. Lan Ming's magic did not spread throughout the territory of August, and Zhi Ming's mobilization lost its effect. From a certain point in time, it became the current situation. Zhi Ming did not use the candle dragon molten gold to control the battlefield as he wished like Lan Ming. Even though he was anxious in the face of such a situation, he was still unable to use his own abilities. The Undead Army and the Imperial Army pressed against the Purple Rose Knights and the Revolutionary Army like a tide. Even though the 24 strongest Templars in the Empire are brave and good at fighting, facing hundreds of enemies is still not an easy task. Zhi Ming wanted to make a desperate move and tried to use the anti-resonance of Candle Dragon Molten Gold to lock the enemy first and then activate the ability. She had tried several times before but had never succeeded. This time is different from the past. If a mistake is made, not only the Imperial Army will be destroyed instantly, but the Knights of the Purple Rose and the Revolutionary Army will also become funerary objects. The pure white angel tried to clasp his hands to calm the fear in his heart, but it was to no avail. Zhi Ming does not have the courage to shoulder hundreds of lives. She cannot try a challenge that will regret her life if she makes the wrong move. At this moment, a sudden force emerged, and a new group of knights attacked the siege from the flank. Their targets are the manipulated Imperial Army and Undead Army, in other words, the companions of the Ziming camp. But after Zhi Ming recognized the knights he belonged to, he couldn't smile reassuringly. It was a knighthood directly affiliated with Philip Ela, the second prince of the Bizi Empire. It was one of the strongest knighthoods in the empire along with the Blue Rose Knights and the Purple Rose Knights. Why didn't it take until this moment? He clearly betrayed himself and his sister, betrayed his family who trusted him, and yet he came to the rescue at the most critical moment. Philippe Hira admitted that he supported the radical faction of the Senate for the sake of reputation and money. Zhi Ming no longer had any hope for him, but at this time he brought the only hope. Zhi Ming doesn't want to admit this kind of thing. The voice of Liman Ela, the first prince of the Bis Empire, came from the radio broadcast across the country. I am Liman Ela. Although I don't know how many people can hear this broadcast, the Bizi Empire is just like what you have seen with your own eyes, so I don't need to say more. The cause of the incident was that Emilius, the Supreme Senator of the Senate, colluded internally and externally with Lalicia Carew, a high-ranking member of the Nemesis Society, to frame the third princess and seize power. The above is the evidence provided by the acting second Prince Philip Ila, and I have confirmed its authenticity. Now that Emilis has taken the blame and committed suicide in his own mansion, Her Royal Highness Queen Zimingila has handed over power. This is the current situation of the Bis Empire. Then, the person who took the microphone was the respected Secretary of State for Military Affairs, Faustin. The Imperial Army is now out of the control of the military department. This is a long-planned conspiracy by lawless people. The BZ Empire is in danger, and the military has lost the ability to continue to command the Imperial Army. Here, I announce my relinquishment of military command and return the power to the first prince, His Highness Lyman Yila. I hope that the royal family Ila, who has opened up the future of the Bis Empire, can create miracles for us. So, Lan Ming, did you hear it? Now I will transfer the power entrusted to me by Mr. Faustin to you and Zi Ming. Only you two are the heirs of the BZ Empire. The people gathered in the shelter, the people hiding in their rooms, the warriors fighting bravely, and all the nobles paying attention to the trends of the war, all heard the words passed by Lyman Ila and Faustin. Broadcast news to the whole country. In this way, it is equivalent to clarifying the charges that the radical faction of the Senate once accused Lan Ming. With the announcement of the first Prince and Minister of Military Affairs, Lan Ming's supporters got a chance to prove their case. In this self-rescue war, the conservative forces were mobilized into action by Zi Ming, who had the same aspirations, and their original leader and advocate was Lan Ming. Such encouraging news spread like wildfire, spreading throughout the streets of the BZ Empire in the blink of an eye. The screams of the warriors were even more earth-shattering than the roars of the monster corpses, resounding throughout the sky.